Let's take a look at the Comet CAA-500 today. Stick around and we'll get right to it. Hey, welcome back guys, Jason, KM4ACK. Since roughly 2021, so right around 5-ish years now, I've been using one of the Rig Expert's Stick Pro, and I'm a pretty big fan of this particular analyzer. But a friend of mine has convinced me to check out this Comet analyzer. So I reached out to my friends at Chat Radio to see if they would loan me one for this review. Now, right out of the gate, you gotta admit that this is quite a bit larger, and I don't know that this Comet is going to replace my Stick Pro for field use. However, for home use, I'm really digging this Comet analyzer. Now, unlike the Stick Pro that is USB-C rechargeable, we do have to add 6 AA batteries to the back of this Comet analyzer. You can also power it from the side from an external source, and you can use anything from 8 to 16 volts. So if you wanted to run this off of lithium iron phosphate, you could easily do that. Now, flipping it over to the front, we power it on using this button down here. That gives us the needle movement at the top, plus it gives us, all right, let's see if Jim's going to yell at me for going ahead and just taking that sticker off, but we can't hardly see it very well with a sticker on there. And I'm sure you guys are getting some glare in the camera, but I'm doing the best I can out here at the park. But the one thing I like about this is how stinking easy it is to use. You want to change the frequency? Just dial the knob on the top, and we are seeing the SWR and the ohms change for this particular antenna. So it's pretty easy to use. If you want to change bands, all we need to do is spin the dial on the left. So we're at 7 megahertz right now, as indicated right here on this bar. Hopefully you guys can see that. And I'm just going to move up to 14 megahertz. You'll see now we're at 14,254. Again, if you want to kind of come down, we can do that, or we can just spin the dial and go back up in frequency. Now, if you actually want to see a sweep of this particular band, I'm going to put this at roughly 14,208, and we'll just go ahead and hit this top button right here. That is the sweep center. And it takes it about probably 30 seconds to go through an entire sweep of that. And you can see that it's going from our center frequency of 14.2, it's going negative 300K to positive 300K. And you can see that it gives us that nice dip and then starts coming back up with this particular antenna as we go higher in frequency. Now, if you prefer, you can actually run a manual sweep with this antenna. And I will say these dials are super, super touchy. It does not take much to move it quite a bit. If we want to do a manual sweep, I'm just going to go ahead and press the bottom button here for the graph on and off. And then we can hit this center sweep again. You'll notice that it puts the 14.2 right here, and we've got negative 100K to positive 100K over here. So if we start rolling the dial ever so slightly, and I forgot something. You have to hit this AP off bandwidth right here before you start that sweep. Let me try that again. Let's hit that button. You get a little bitty red indicator right up there in the top. Now, as I start moving to the right, you'll see it starts plotting that SWR graph right there on the bottom of the screen. If we go back to the left, you can see that we're getting the left-hand side. Now, I went a little quick, so we got little dots in there. If we go a little bit slower, let's see if we can fill in all of those little dots. But you can kind of, yeah, okay. There we go. I told you this little knob is touchy. But I find this thing to be much simpler to use just for a quick reading than the Stick Pro. And before I forget, I want to give a big shout out to Jim and his team over at Chat Radio and thank them for sponsoring today's video. Without sponsors like that, I often might not get a chance to look at a device like this Comet CAA-500. So be sure to check out Chat Radio for all of your ham radio needs. Now, the analyzer will work from 1.8 to 500 megahertz. We've got 2 different connectors on top. This one is 1.8 to 300 megahertz and is an SO239 connector. Over here, we've got 300 to 500 megahertz, and on this side, we get the Type N connector. Now, I do like the analog needles at the top, but this color display also gives us a lot of different information. Hopefully you guys can see that without too much glare on the screen, but you'll see the band dial right here. This gives you the SWR in the middle, gives us our ohms on the top. We've got a graph there, and then we get our R and X numbers right there on the bottom as well. Now the main question I've got is, how long is Jim going to let me borrow this analyzer before he takes my credit card? If you found today's information helpful, be sure to give us a thumbs up before you head off. We will see you guys on the next one. Until then, 7-3.